Hey everyone! In this video we're going to talk about the philosophy of David Hume, one of the most important figures of the Enlightenment. Hume is known for his criticisms of traditional metaphysics and sciences. These criticisms are closely related to his understanding of knowledge. Now let's take a closer look at Hume's philosophy. Scottish philosopher David Hume was born in Edinburgh in 1711. He started at the University of Edinburgh when he was only 12 years old. Talk about a whiz kid. At first he wanted to study law, but later changed his mind and turned to classical languages, history and philosophy. His family wasn't very well off, so he went into trade for a while. At the age of 22, he went to France and spent 4 years there. When he was 26, he completed one of his most important works, a Treatise of Human Nature, and published it in London. This work, which has a very important place in the history of philosophy, unfortunately did not receive the attention it deserved at that time. Hume later made a name for himself with his essays, moral, political and literary. He applied for the chair of ethics at the University of Edinburgh, but was rejected because his ideas were considered dangerous to religion. He then travelled to Germany, France, Austria and Italy as secretary to a general. During these travels, he wrote an inquiry concerning human understanding, in which he re-examined some of the issues he had dealt with in his first book. When he returned to Scotland, he worked for a time as a librarian at the Faculty of Law at the University of Edinburgh. During this period, he completed his 6-volume History of England, which was much admired for both its content and its fluent narrative. He then went back to France as secretary to an ambassador, where he formed close friendships with J.J. Rousseau and the encyclopedists. Hume lived a quiet life after returning to England and passed away in 1776. The theory of knowledge occupies a very important place in Hume's philosophy. It can even be said that his theory of knowledge is actually a theory of perception. Hume, like other empiricist philosophers, argues that all our knowledge comes from our perceptions. According to him, everything that comes to our mind, whether we use our senses, act with our feelings, or think and rack our brains, is a perception. Hume divides perceptions into two: impressions and ideas. When we feel an emotion or perceive the outside world through our senses, the perception that forms in our mind is called an impression. For example, all sensations such as feeling cold, suffering and getting angry are impressions. If we're not experiencing an object or emotion at that moment but only thinking about it, then an idea is formed in our mind. For example, even if we are not cold right now, we can think about cold weather. This thought is an idea. So impressions are more vivid and powerful perceptions, while ideas are weaker and fainter. According to Hume, all ideas are based on impressions we have acquired before. In other words, we cannot think of something we have never experienced before. Hume also divides impressions and ideas into simple and complex. Simple impressions and ideas are perceptions that cannot be further broken down. For example, let's think of a smell, taste, or color. These are simple ideas. The human mind uses these simple ideas to form more complex thoughts. Our mind plays a passive role in perceiving simple ideas, that is, it only receives information from the outside world. However, our mind plays an active role in forming complex ideas. It combines, modifies, expands, or narrows the information we perceive with our senses. Hume puts forward 3 principles he calls the laws of association, to explain how we move from simple impressions and ideas to complex ones: resemblance, contiguity, temporal or spatial, and cause and effect. All 3 of these principles play a role in the formation of complex ideas. However, according to Hume, the principle of causality plays the most important role in the formation of strong ideas, especially what we call belief. Hume also addresses the issue of causality when dealing with abstract concepts such as God, substance, matter, and soul. According to him, these concepts are not things that we can perceive with our senses. Therefore, we cannot have impressions of these concepts. And concepts that have no impressions cannot have ideas. In this way, Hume criticizes not only the concepts of theology and scholastic metaphysics, but also the systems of philosophers such as Descartes, Leibniz, and Spinoza. These philosophers based their philosophies on concepts such as God, soul, and substance. In his An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, Hume says, "If we take in hand any volume of divinity or school metaphysics, for instance, let us ask, does it contain any abstract reasoning concerning quantity or number? No. Does it contain any experimental reasoning concerning matter of fact and existence? No. Commit it then to the flames, for it can contain nothing but sophistry and illusion." According to Hume, the cause and effect relationship is not something we can perceive with our senses either. For example, suppose that event A is the cause of event B. We can observe this causal relationship neither in A nor in B. All we can observe is that these two events follow each other. So according to Hume, the reason why we think there is a necessary cause and effect relationship between A and B is not a logical inference, but merely habit. When we observe many times that an event B follows an event A habit is formed in our minds. And because of this habit, we establish a necessary causal link between A and B. In short, we perceive a connection between events that does not actually exist, simply because of our habits. From this, Hume argues that all our inferences about cause and effect are based on experience. And all knowledge derived from experience is based on the assumption that nature will continue to behave in the same way in the future. That is, we assume that similar causes will always produce similar results under similar conditions. This idea of Hume's is an important critique, especially of the experimental sciences. Because according to this understanding, sciences should be content with merely observing facts and should not try to establish necessary connections between events. Otherwise, the theory put forward would be based not on a scientific basis, but merely on habit. But this criticism does not mean that Hume sees science as completely unnecessary. According to him, even if we cannot prove that there are cause and effect relationships between events, it is necessary for practical life to believe in these relationships, because it is essential for us to be able to predict what will happen after each other and the events around us in order to live a safe and orderly life. So causality is not an objective reality, but a product of the human mind.